You know, organizations tend to make the same mistake over and over again. They either clamp down with processes so rigid that teams feel like they're working at the DMV, or they throw up their hands and tell everyone to, well, just figure it out. And both approaches are kind of disastrous. The rigid camp kills innovation with bureaucracy, and the flexible camp creates chaos disguised as agility. And somehow, we keep pretending that these are the only two options available. So, think about this. When you build a city, do you either put traffic signals on every corner or remove all the roads entirely? Well, of course not. That'd be stupid. But that's exactly how many organizations think about execution frameworks. It's like an all or nothing. They assume, somehow, that structure kills creativity. And they assume that flexibility creates inconsistency. And both assumptions are wrong. They're polar opposite, but they're wrong. And they're costing you quite substantially. Rigid frameworks repel your best people. Innovation dies under a compliance paperwork. Smart engineers tend to leave because they feel micromanaged. But on the other hand, loose frameworks produce a different sort of chaos. A dozen different teams interpret our process a dozen different ways, and nobody knows what anyone else is doing. Projects tend to explode without warning because there's no early detection system. So the real solution is to distinguish between what needs to be consistent and what can be variable. Some things are non-negotiable foundations, like every project having clear ownership and success criteria. But other things are tools that could adapt to context, like whether teams use Kanban boards or Gantt charts. The structure serves the flexibility, not the other way around. And that's the key insight that many organizations miss. So how do you actually build this balance? Well, let's look at the roadmap here. Expand this and get to the nitty-gritty. Step one is to define what is actually non-negotiable. So identify the absolute core elements that every initiative must include, regardless of team or methodology. I'm talking about things like having a clear owner, defined success criteria, realistic timeline, regular review cadence. Those are non-negotiables. And keep the list ruthlessly short. If you have more than, say, 5 non-negotiables, you're probably mixing requirements with preferences. These are not tools or processes, mind you. These are fundamental requirements for coordinated action. Now, a team can use sticky notes or they can use enterprise software, but they cannot skip ownership clarity. That is non-negotiable. All right, step 2. Offer flexible tools by work type. So once you've established what's required, provide multiple ways that teams can fulfill those requirements. Some teams thrive with detailed project plans and milestone tracking. Others prefer lightweight sprints and daily stand-ups. And still others work best with simple checklists and weekly check-ins. The key is to ensure that all these tools serve the same underlying framework. Whether your team uses Jira or a whiteboard, they still need clear ownership, defined scope, and progress visibility. And create explicit guidance on when different approaches make sense. So, for example, experimental work benefits from rapid cycles and loose planning, but infrastructure projects need dependency mapping and sequential gates. Marketing campaigns might require external timeline coordination. You have to map the requirements to the context. Step 3, create modular playbooks. Develop specific guidance for different types of work while maintaining connection to your core framework. Show how the same principles, ownership, success criteria, progress tracking, they all apply differently to feature development, technical debt, experiments, operational improvements, what have you. Each playbook should be lightweight but specific. So feature development emphasizes user research and iterative delivery. Technical debt focuses on risk assessment and incremental improvement. Experiments prioritize rapid learning and clear metrics. Teams should be able to say, we're running an experiment, and immediately know which playbook provides relevant guidance. Step 4, train teams to apply judgment. This is the most critical skill, knowing when to flex and when to allow the standard approach. This requires developing organizational judgment, not just following rules. Provide concrete examples of both extremes. Show what happens when teams skip essential steps for speed, but also show what happens when they add unnecessary complexity for thoroughness. Use real scenarios from your organization if you possibly can. When did flexibility serve the work well? When did it create problems? When did structure help? And when did it get in the way? These stories become the wisdom that guides future decisions. Now, step 5 is to use governance as guardrails, not handcuffs. Your oversight should flag risk and drift and not micromanage daily activities. Think early warning systems rather than approval committees. Create lightweight review points that surface issues while teams can still course correct. Focus on outcomes and confidence, not compliance with specific steps. Ask questions like, are you confident in your timeline, rather than, did you complete step 3.2? When teams identify problems early and make adjustments, celebrate that behavior. And when they hide problems until crisis time, well, try to address their underlying fears so this does not become a habit. When you get this right, teams operate with both speed and confidence. They can adapt their approach to different contexts without losing coordination. And leaders get visibility without having to micromanage. And most importantly, you preserve innovation within reliable delivery. Teams have space to experiment while maintaining the discipline to ship consistently. Execution does not have to be a choice between rigidity and chaos. With thoughtful design, you can build systems that provide both the structure teams need and the flexibility that they crave. The question isn't whether you need the balance, it's whether you're ready to build it properly.